Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and climate change champions. My name is Munir Beltaifa, and I am the Vice President of Tunisian Talents United, your Master of Ceremony for this side event. Welcome to the Tunisia Pavilion at COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan. Today, we gather here not just representatives of our nations and industries, but as united advocates for our planet, driven by an urgent call to action. We are here to celebrate, elevate, and empower climate change talents in action. Those remarkable innovators and visionaries who are shaping the future of climate resilience and sustainability. Climate change is the defining challenge of our time, testing our resolve, ingenuity, and capacity for collaboration. Yet, in this challenge lies an extraordinary opportunity, the chance to transform our economies, build resilient systems, and create a regenerative future. It is with this hope and vision that Tunisia steps forward today, committed to harnessing the power of youth, scientific expertise, and collaborative ingenuity. Over the next few days, you will witness a showcase of groundbreaking ideas, from innovative soil regeneration techniques and AI-driven aquaculture to pioneering approaches in nanotechnology for energy and strategies for operationalizing sustainability. Each session reflects a commitment to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and highlights the creative potential of our region. Our journey toward climate resilience requires a tapestry of solutions woven from the brightest minds across sectors and borders. Today, we celebrate the talents who dare to innovate, inspire, and implement these solutions. Their work reminds us that no idea is too small and no effort is too insignificant to make a difference in our world. Let us listen, learn, and leave this pavilion more inspired, more connected, and more determined than ever to champion a sustainable and climate-resilient future. Thank you for being part of this transformative moment, and it is my honor to share with you the welcoming message from our Chairman and President, Mr. Najib Zafrani, who couldn't join us in person, but is with us remotely with connected heart and mind. Obviously, the connection with Mr. Najib is not there. Click once, please. The sound is muted. Okay. Probably we can skip this one.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to warmly welcome you all to Optimistic Tunisia 6 Climate Change Talents in Action at COP 29 in Tunisia Pavilion, Baku, Azerbaijan.
Why don't you put the sound on the screen?
Thank the Tunisian Ministry of Environment for giving the Tunisian Talents United TTU Association the second opportunity to collaborate and participate at the side events in order to raise the visibility of the contribution of Tunisian talents to Tunisia and to the rest of the world at COP29. Also, our sincere thanks to our sponsor, Attijari Bank, CDC, and Baker Hughes for their contribution to bring to Baku young Tunisian entrepreneurs and brilliant talents to share their innovative mindset and relevant technologies, systems, processes, and expertise to mitigate the global warming and climate change for protecting the planet and securing a safe future for humanity. Thank you as well to see Munir Baltaifa, Vice President of TTU, and the executive team for putting together a best-in-class TTU program of side events. Our guest speakers during the 3-day morning sessions from today, 14th to 16th November 2024, they will bring together more than 200 years of diverse experiences and best practices from different parts of the globe, including Tunisia, covering various sectors of activities such as energy, agriculture, water, finance, and advanced technologies. Also, they are representing international companies, small, medium enterprises, consultants, startups, universities, and independent NGOs, non-government organizations. All of them focus on one common objective, is to combat climate change and global warming. In my humble view, decarbonization of fossil fuels is one of the major actions to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from the sources to the consumers during this energy transition. One of the key success factors of COP29 is to secure and accelerate mega financial investments for mega transnational infrastructure projects by deploying carbon capture and storage technologies to decarbonize fossil fuels, particularly from power plants on a worldwide scale. This remains my dream after 45 years of contribution to the energy sector in different parts of the world. Wishing you all a successful COP29 for a better and safer future for humanity. Thank you for your attention.
Kamal? Thank you, Mr. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to session 1 of Climate Change Talents in Action here at the Tunisia Pavilion. Today, we are privileged to hear from an incredible lineup of thought leaders and innovators who are driving impactful change and reshaping our understanding of sustainability and development in climate-affected world. We begin this session with this current opening and introduction. Following that, we are honored to have Dr. Nihal Shabrak, CEO, Vision Nest. Nihal will inspire us with her presentation titled and she will dive into the transformative potential of regenerative practices and how Vision Nest is building capacity and innovation in the realm of carbon markets. Next, we will hear from Mr. Yassin Ben Nedi, Head of Bioentrance Technology. He will enlighten us on the role of microorganisms, inputs in ecological succession, in soil building and plant health, showcasing how the smallest organisms can have the most significant impact on soil restoration and the health of our ecosystems. Then Dr. Fadel Qaboub from Denison University will challenge conventional narratives in his talk. Can Tunisia reset the conversation about debt development and climate finance? Dr. Fadel will offer a fresh perspective on economic frameworks and how Tunisia can lead a new discourse that bridges sustainable development and climate finance. Lastly, Mr. Mohammed Ali Shambi from Aquadeep will present on integrating AI in aquaculture for efficient and sustainable operations. Mohammed Ali will share how artificial intelligence is revolutionizing aquaculture, making it more efficient and sustainable, and how this innovative approach can support global food security in the face of climate change. Each of our speakers brings a unique perspective and a wealth of knowledge. I encourage everyone to actively engage, ask questions, and consider how these groundbreaking ideas can be applied and scaled. Let's make this session a catalyst for meaningful dialogue and collaborative action. Thank you, and let's get started. Professor Nihal Shabrak is a renowned authority in sustainable development and climate action with significant experience in carbon markets and international climate negotiations. As founder and CEO of Vision Nest, she spearheads initiatives that transform environmental impact through research-based solutions, exemplified by her leadership of the Great Green Action at COP28. Her career spans roles such as CEO of the UAE University Science and Innovation Park and coordinator of the Dubai Declaration on Sustainable Finance, giving her deep insights into climate finance. Professor Shabrak's efforts make complex climate challenges accessible, leveraging her expertise to mobilize diverse stakeholders toward ambitious environmental goals. Transforming climate action from compliance to strategic opportunity. As the climate crisis deepens, Vision Nest champions transformative approaches to sustainability, striving for harmonious and regenerative Anthropocene. The mission is to align human activities with nature, promoting systemic change through regenerative practices. Vision Nest focus on developing robust carbon markets, equipping professionals with essential skills for impactful greenhouse gas reductions. This presentation will explore strategic initiatives, including capacity building programs like Share Screen Africa. Additionally, Dr. Nihal Shabrak will illustrate how Vision Nest supports Tunisia's nationally determined contributions through targeted training, empowering local experts to achieve ambitious climate goals. Dr. Shabrak, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Simonir.
We need to move to the next one.
To the next? Oh.
Yes, that's good.
Actually, I did a small change actually in my talk today because so recently, like, I mean, you know, it's very important to pivot when you are, you know, an entrepreneur and when you are trying actually to say something relevant and timely. And I think actually we are now in a context of, you know, raising the ambition. Everyone is talking about, you know, the next NDCs. We are like post first global stock take cycle, which, you know, ended in Dubai. And through my experience, recent experience, I have been working with several organizations on their review of the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions. I've been working with some members of the delegation, of the Tunisian delegation to the COP29. And also I have been reading some, you know, so I had like some readings from different reports on the NDCs, you know, trackers of NDCs, etc. And the thing I have noticed is the following, and I have been like trying to understand, you know, the reasons behind. First, actually, when we look at countries' commitments or countries' engagement with the Paris Agreement, we always see that climate action, climate policy is like an add-on. It's like, I mean, we have our, you know, development priorities, we have our national plans, and then actually we come and, you know, we need to think about something for climate because it's required. Because actually we need to comply, we need to submit an NDC, we need to submit, you know, a national adaptation plan, we need to, you know, to report on, you know, our implementation, etc., etc. So actually there is this limited integration between the two. Like, I mean, how we engage with the convention, with the Paris Agreement, and how and how we plan for our, you know, national priorities. And then also there are other challenges, which are the institutional coordination. I mean, it's maybe actually it's the process which is creating somehow this siloed approach to, you know, to climate. But most of the time there is like, and it's an international, that's a global context. There is a challenge in having like this institutional coordination towards, climate policy and action. And of course, this creates an inevitable gap between implementation and planning, because when it comes to implementation, it's not necessarily those who were involved in the planning who are going to implement. And then, of course, actually, it becomes even more challenging. So part of, the lack or the problems or the challenges countries face when it comes to implementation is because actually at the beginning there was a lack of engagement of all the stakeholders who are going to be involved in the implementation. And finally, actually, what I have noticed is that all this process generally is lacking, tapping into the resources. There are so many resources. Resources from the civil society, from academia, from the private sector, from the government, other departments in the governments, and of course, actually, these untapped potential limits the approach, towards climate, which is more like, I call it, it's a minimalist approach. It's really compliance-based approach instead of opportunity-seeking approach. And then I tried to look at, okay, I mean, not all countries maybe are in this case. Maybe actually some countries are trying to do something different and trying to, use that opportunity for their, development priorities, national development priorities. And I found an interesting case, which is the case of Costa Rica. I'm not saying it's the best or it's perfect, but at least we can find some interesting insights that actually could be leveraged by other countries or contexts, of course, need to be adapted. So actually, when Costa Rica actually started engaging with the Paris Agreement, so in 2017, they created what they call the 5 seats, the Citizen Climate Change and Advisory Council, which is a large platform somehow of, several, stakeholders involved at different levels, like advising on the commitments when actually it was prepared, also providing some feedback on on the policies, monitoring, so providing some accountability as well to the process. And so actually it contributed to an enhanced stakeholder engagement. And then actually, so this process has led to their decarbonization plan for 2050 with 3 phases. And so the plan actually includes very clear, sectoral targets, with very clear milestones. And what is very important, it's integrated with the development planning of the country. And this is extremely important. That's the core point I want to talk about. And then in terms of finance, so actually they tried to, of course, actually besides, the conditional targets that seek international support, but in terms of unconditional targets, so actually to mobilize their own resources, they used actually this environmental service payment program, which came actually after the forestry law of 1996. So they created the fund, and then actually they used this fund to, to fund initiatives which are related to ecosystem services and which increase significantly the forestry cover in the country. And of course, actually, it was incentives given to, the citizens to contribute to that effort. And of course, actually, all this was imagined. So all this process was created through, this consultative, a platform that was created initially from the beginning. So, that gave like the opportunity for Costa Rica, for example, to become one of the first countries to access, for example, the IMF Resilience and Sustainability Facility with few countries in 2022. And of course, actually, it's something that actually we can learn from. So if we look at the challenge is the following. So we are more in a box-ticking approach when it comes to, to climate engagement, climate policy engagement. We are also suffering from a fragmented planning and implementation, limited sector, cross-sector coordination, underutilized stakeholder engagement, and of course, underutilized international climate negotiations for national gains. Now, actually, how to solve this problem? That's the question. I don't know how much time I have, but
we still have 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. So typically the question here is how to move from a compliance-driven approach, okay, to a new, approach which is more opportunity-focused. And so for that, actually, I think that we need two things. So there is a phased approach, phased methodology that needs to be in place, that is going to, ensure a larger consultation, a larger engagement at the national level, okay? And at the same time, creating the structure, a kind of architecture that will make this effort more sustainable, long-term and sustainable. And this should start from the assessment until the implementation. So from the assessment of, the national capabilities, resources that we have, to the strategic integration of, these policies across all, the ministries, all the departments, top down and bottom up, like from the national level to the local level and back to national level. Inclusive engagement in terms of, everyone needs to be engaged. And here, actually, I was in a session yesterday, and I was listening to the former Minister of Environment of Norway, and he was talking about like what Norway was doing. And he said, like, we thought that we had the best approach, as a government, and we were happy that we reached that, level of commitment. But then he said we had this meeting with, different, stakeholders from Norway at different levels, and they were seeking feedback. And people were saying, no, we don't want that. We don't want this. So the reason why it's interesting, because he said, like, if you don't have the approval, like, I mean, if you don't have the ownership of these stakeholders, you can have the best policies, you can have the best, plan, but it will never be implemented because they don't own it. They will not seek to implement this. So of course that message, I mean, resonated very well with what I'm trying to explain today. So you know, how can we implement this? So typically, for each phase, actually, there is a need for different outcomes, and there is also different ways to do it. So for example, when it comes to the assessment, it's very important actually to have a kind of participatory approach. It's not, for example, something that you just, you know, do in between the offices or in kind of, no, actually you need to involve different stakeholders in order to, you know, to do the assessment of the current situation, you know, and of course, actually, you need to do the mapping of these stakeholders before. You need to look at what are the gaps, and of course, actually, you know, this will help you also understand the institutional capacity gaps as well. And then actually moving to the strategic integration. I always, like, I mean, when I was working as a CEO of the Science and Innovation Park, I was all the time told that, you know, actually we have a problem, you know, communication between industry, academia, you know, government, etc. That's true, and that's true at all levels. And that's true even between, you know, the different ministries. They don't have the same language. They don't have the same priorities. They don't understand each other. I mean, and that's something which is, it's very simple. It's very simple, and it impacts a lot. And now actually, how will you improve that? How will you make them listen to each other, understand what they are saying and what they are thinking, and then integrate this into a comprehensive approach? So again, there is a methodological, I'm not talking about any political will here. I'm at the technical level, but the technical level that will enable, you know, things to happen. So in terms of communication, they don't understand each other, and so they don't talk to each other. So how to bring, you know, this strategic integration at a certain level, and then actually to bring them, you know, to have this top-down, bottom-up, you know, approach to enlarge the consultation and to include other, you know, other input into the strategy that we want to build. And of course, at the end, so we need to, the last phase, it's, you know, about capacity building, it's about monitoring, putting in place like everything that is going to enable the implementation, but at the same time to provide, you know, feedback, monitoring, resource mobilization as well. So everything like comes together. Finally, in order actually to have a sustainable impact, it's very important to have the right architecture. And the right architecture here is important to have a horizontal and a vertical integration. So both integrations are very important, so that actually you have this cross-sectoral coordination, but at the same time moving from the national to the local level and back to the national level. And then a stakeholder ecosystem with the right platforms that enable this, you know, continuous dialogue, and finally, you know, the sustainable implementation with very clear roles, with clear also monitoring and accountability systems. I will stop here. I prefer like to have, you know, maybe some questions and more like discussion and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Nihal Shabrak. Actually, we would love this experience and these new thoughts to benefit to Tunisia. Are you going to be in COP29 on Monday, November 18th?
Yes.
I think it would be interesting for all of us that you meet our Minister of Healthcare, who is also an advisor of the presidency at Carthage, and who loves these new concepts and architecture, and that would definitely have an impact. We as civil society understand this, but we need it to be understood at the highest level of those who are in power, and that would be very helpful. If you could allocate some time and make sure you can meet. Of course, I'm sure he has a very busy agenda, but I'm sure you can find a way with our team from the Ministry of Environment. They may coordinate for a meeting for you with him. Any questions? And because we are, yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much for the very interesting presentation. I see that you were involved in NDC development in Tunisia, and I'm curious to know if the NDC in Tunisia is children and youth sensitive enough. And I know that the Tunisian NDC has ambitious goals, actually, and to achieve these targets, we need a huge funding. And so according to you, what are the main challenges facing Tunisia in mobilizing enough climate funding? I was invited this morning by the Yemen delegation, and they were launching their climate funding strategy up to 2030, and they invited the GCF, the Green Climate Fund. So do we have a climate finance strategy in Tunisia, and what are the main challenges facing Tunisia in mobilizing enough funds? Thank you.
So I'm not involved in the NDC preparation of Tunisia. However, I have been following what has been done so far since the submission of the NDC of Tunisia, and not only the NDC but also other and I would really love to have a conversation actually with I had already, but I would love to continue that conversation. Is that what I have noticed is that talking about the climate funds, we can see that Tunisia has not requested the funds that could have been allocated. And that's a question, like, I don't have an answer for that. I know that there are several initiatives for which Tunisia is still in the process of assessment, etc. But there are more initiatives for which actually Tunisia did not request yet funding. And that's my question. Like, I mean, I want to understand. I'm curious to know. The other thing which also I have noticed when I was reviewing, all these documents, is that there were many follow-ups that have not been made, even like on projects that have been funded and for which actually there is a continuation. And of course, actually continuing means that you can get more fund, okay? And of course, actually, the people who were involved in these in submitting the initiatives, in preparing the initiatives, were a bit like, you know, saying, well, I mean, there is an issue, of course. Why we are not aggressive? That's the word. We are not aggressive like other countries. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Probably Dr. Fadel Qaboub will have a complementary answer a little bit later. Thank you very much, Dr. Shabrak.
Thank you.
And may I invite you to give your mic to Mr. Yassin Ben Nadi. Mr. Yassin Ben Nadi is a skilled biotechnology engineer with a master's degree in industrial production of health goods. He has developed expertise in various techniques used in organic agriculture, biological farming, and agroecology. As the co-founder and manager of BioEntrance Technology, a pioneering Tunisian startup in the agrochemical and biotechnology fields since 2019, Yassin plays a key role in driving innovation and sustainable practices in the industry. Ecological succession in soil building and plant health, and the role of microorganisms inputs in this process. Actually, chemical fertilizers are highly effective at boosting crop yields, but they often diminish the role of beneficial soil microbes. Soil microbes are vital for nutrient cycling, enhancing soil structure, and supporting plant health and resilience. Mr. Yassin Ben Nadi will introduce the significance of these microbes, the conditions under which they thrive, and strategies to foster a diverse microbial community. He will also present his startup, BioEntrance Technology, sharing examples of microorganisms that can be applied on a large scale and explain how they contribute to sustainable agriculture. Mr. Yassin, the mic is yours.
Thank you. So thank you for inviting me as a TTU to this relevant event. I'm very honored to be in the COP 29. So we'll talk about microorganism today. And when I prepared this presentation, I wanted to push the academic approach more than a startup to understand more the challenges that we are facing on and see together how we can solve some problems. So microorganism so about the titles of the role of microorganism inputs in ecological succession in soil building and in plant health. It seems hard to understand, but it will be easier after. So microorganisms are everywhere. We can find them in the air, in water, in the soil. So 99% of all living organisms are microorganisms, and 1 gram of soil can contain billions of that microbes. So we can see at the big picture that we are not really we don't see them, but we have a lot of life under our feet. So we have fungus, bacteria, protozoa, some worms, and that's ecosystem work together. We'll not talk about all of them today. So we will focus
we have only
overlight.
15 minutes.
Yeah. So overlight just 2 microbes, which is fungus and bacteria. So why are they here? Are they important to agriculture? Over these years, conventional agriculture using chemicals was used. So conventional agriculture used chemicals like fertilizer, pesticides, herbicide. And what we didn't understand is that the first role of microorganism is to feed plants. So feed plants, and plants also feed microorganisms. So here, plant and microbes have a symbiotic relationship. We didn't understand it, and overfeeding overfeeding by chemicals gives us a fact that plants. We understand that plants was a bit lazy, and when we overfeed plants chemicals, the nutrients become immediately available to the plant. So we stop the growth of roots, and we have here two consequences. The prevention microbes from growing as they normally should, and we prevent also plant roots from growing. So to explain this symbiotic relationship, we need to understand some process. Humanity to pathogen. We know now that roots, when they absorb nutriment, they absorb also the microbes cell. So with that, they absorb DNA, and DNA drive the immunity of pathogen. And now also we understand that with this humanity, plants grow better, and yeah. The next, the other something that we have understood also, that microorganism will also contribute to the soil structure, how it works. We have some mycorrhiza, which grows next to the roots. Roots will grow and will aerate the soil. Mycorrhiza will produce some of nutrients, some sticky substance, which will reinforce the structure of the soil. So here we have a process like symbiotic process. Roots will aerate, and the mycorrhiza will stabilize the structure. So here we have prevention of erosion, thanks to this collaboration. The prevention of erosion increase we have the increase of the water holding capacity of the soil, and the increase also of the oxygenation of the soil. This symbiotic relationship will give us like a microbial community, and the most important things that we need to know about microbes community, that they works together, and we have roles. Some roles is to digest organic matter such as plants litter, and some organic waste also. And the problem with that is that if we lose the integrity of this microbial community, we will lose the primary function of microbes. This community will not be able to degrade, to digest the waste organic. So to face to this problem, we need to implement some techniques to rehabilitate this microbe community. So this techniques will be approached. So this is a holistic approach. It's named so integrated nutrient management. So ENM integrates as many tools as possible to manage fertility and reduce dependency on artificial inputs. So this is a combination of strategic fertilizer use, organic amendment. We implement some compost, manure, etc. Biostimulants, cover crops, integration of intercrops, and the production also of some organic inputs like microorganisms. So we didn't use anymore the fertilizer diet. We are integrating some biology with some nutriment to have this productivity of plants, and biology to have the fertility of the soil. So my name is Yassine Ben Menedi. I'm a co-founder, manager of Bioendurance Technology. This is a biotechnology agri-tech startup created in 1918. So we start with, so we began experimental work in 1919 in 12 meters square of laboratory and received a startup level. In the same year, we developed an MVP prototype of SSF bioreactors. It's a technology which control the solid state fermentation so it's a process of production of microorganisms in collaboration with l'Institut de Recherche pour le Développement France, and we had established vermicompost farm. In 2020, we created a POC of SSF bioreactor and began testing microorganism production. 2021, initiate collaboration with two laboratories, IAD France and the Tunisian Olive Tree Institute. We target some microorganism and we control to product it. 2022, we set up a liquid fertilizer production unit. 2023, develop MVPs for several fertilizer formulation. And 2024, launched products to market. So this is our farms, vermicompost farms. Why vermicompost? To drive this organic matter to the soil, we need production of organic matter. So it's the best way to product it. So it's improved soil structure, it's rich of nutrient, boosts microbial activity, and reduce soil disease. What we are using with also we are extracting this vermicompost tea, and we use it as biostimulants to reinforce plant defense, and it's also very important to know that it's eco-friendly and cost-effective. Donc, how it works, so we bring this organic matter, we introduce it to the factory, and we are doing formulation. So we introduce some mineral raw material, filling, labeling to have the final product as fertilizer. So we use some minerals, and it depends of the target. We can use microorganisms, we can use some other minerals to have this reinforce of soil and the plant. Also, so we produce, so we control the solid state fermentation to produce some microorganisms. So what SSF is defined as the cultivation process in which microorganisms grow in solid materials without the presence of a free liquid. So it's our famous it's microorganism. It has an incredible properties, use it as biostimulants, use it as biopesticides. It helps promote root growth, biocontrol, and protection against potential pathogen. Yeah. So how it works? So we start with the strain collection to stabilize this microorganism and to control also the condition of growth. After inoculation, we go to the scale up. So we go from maybe from the dish petri to 1,000, 10,000 more of unit of this organism. So we use it as a solid form or liquid form as biostimulant. We formulate it with other products to have large many other products, so to target what we are facing. So this project are engaged to different UN SDG, so as climate action, response, conception and production, good health and well-being, life and land, zero hunger, clean water and sanitation. And we are we are helping to sustainable agriculture, and we are decreasing the use of chemicals. So thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Yassine.
Thank you.
How many, what is the rough percentage of Tunisian farmers who are using or calling on your services or introducing these bioentrants?
So I've seen that farmers are conscious that there is a big problem, that the productivity are decreasing more and more, and that they need an innovative approach. So the integration of microorganisms we are seeing in the ground helping a lot, and they have solved many problems. Okay. Yeah.
And how affordable is it for Tunisian farmers? Because we know that Tunisian farmers are not that rich, and they need to increase productivity. Is it something affordable to them?
No, because really, in terms of the cost, it's a very cheap product compared to the chemicals, and we are integrating by scale the new products, so they don't really feel some changing, but in the ground they are seeing it. But they, in terms of cost, they are not feeling any change.
And I guess this is interesting for Tunisian farmers, but also other farmers around the world.
Of course, yes.
So do you have any ambition for exporting your services?
Yeah,
products?
Of course. Yeah. But not. We need some implementation of norms. Export need to ameliorate some processes, the normative to have access to the export. But we are working on, and we hope very soon we will export our product.
Thank you very much. Any question to Mr. Yassine?
I mean, is there an improvement in terms of carbon sequestration, like for the soil?
Yeah. So increasing the microorganism capacity in the soil will solve many problems. Like I try to explain. So it will help to increase to improve the structure of the soil, to improve this synergy relationship with the plant, and it will help instead to have a better growth plants. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Yassine, for the very insightful presentation. So my question is, this kind of projects requires a lot of, let's say, a team dedicated for R&D and like a lot of iterations. So my question is, how are you funding your project? Did you raise fund, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we established, first of all, this production unity to have some production, so to bring some also money, to have something to present to the investors, and to have guarantee also with for the bank. But we aim to improve this relation with some laboratory, national laboratory, and also to work overseas with some research institute to really reinforce this technology of SSF, so solid state fermentation, and to unify all the process and produce all what we are trying to do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yassine.
Thank you.
And please exchange your mic with Mr. Dr. Father Kaboub. University and president of the Global Institute for Sustainable Prosperity. He specializes in economic sovereignty and climate finance in the Global South, focusing on just transitions and sustainable development. Dr. Kaboub has advised initiatives like the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty and Power Shift Africa. He recently co-authored Just Transition, a Climate, Energy and Development Vision for Africa. Based in Nairobi, he is dedicated to transforming global trade, finance, and investment systems for equitable growth. So today, Dr. Kaboub is going to tell us, or to try to address the question, can Tunisia reset the conversation about debt, development, and climate finance? And as a climate vulnerable V20 member facing climate and economic challenges, Tunisia has a chance to lead strategic South-South and South-North cooperation to transform energy, climate, debt, and development. Under the G77, Tunisia can push for geopolitical leverage to advance debt, development, and climate finance conversations with the global North. From an African perspective, climate finance equals development finance, creating opportunities to invest in food sovereignty, agroecology, and renewable infrastructure. Tunisia demands climate debt repayment through grants, technology transfer, and debt cancellation, not rescheduling. All these ideas, the floor is yours, Dr. Kaboub, to develop them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting this this conversation. If I use the slides, this will move. Okay.
It's coming. It's coming.
Oh, it's coming. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe to answer the question earlier about why is Tunisia not requesting even funds from the Green Climate Fund or other adaptation funds where we actually qualify for funding for almost grant-based financing? And I think what's lacking in Tunisia is understanding that climate finance is development finance, and understanding that climate negotiations are not exclusively about climate or reducing emissions. They're about development. They're about technology transfer. They're about foreign direct investment in transformative sectors. So we need Tunisia's presence here not to be from the Ministry of Environment alone, but Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Finance in particular, including the central bank. There's green central banking conversations that are happening as we speak. So I think it requires thinking about this particular process, the COP process, at the cabinet level rather than particular ministries or sub-ministries. So with that, I'd like to start the conversation by highlighting this report, Just Transition report. It's available in French also on our website, which was published last year by the Independent Expert Group on Just Transition and Development. And what we try to do in this report is put forward a coherent and comprehensive long-term transformative strategy from an African perspective that simultaneously addresses climate, energy, and development issues. These are issues that are usually siloed, even in our governments. When we talk about debt, we're not talking about climate. When we talk about energy, we're not talking about development. And this report was well received, and a lot of my comments today will reflect this work. Why long-term strategy from a Tunisian perspective, from an African perspective? If you as a country or as a region don't have a strategic vision for yourself, I guarantee you're already part of somebody else's vision. And everybody has a right to have a strategic vision for themselves. They have a right to use their economic diplomacy and incentives to nudge every other country to where they want to see them. But so do we. We also have the right to have our vision, to use our diplomacy to reposition ourselves where we think we should be. The problem is that most of the major economic blocks already have a vision for us, have a particular role for us that was assigned for centuries now. And that is, we're supposed to be the place where they can extract cheap raw materials from the global south in general for their industries. We're the consumers of industrial output and technologies from the global north. We still play that role today as a continent and as a country. And most importantly, we're the place, and this is especially true for Tunisia, we're the place where obsolete technologies, assembly line manufacturing that they no longer need in the industrialized world, it's outsourced to us under the label of foreign direct investment, cooperation, job creation, partnerships. But effectively what it does, it locks us at the bottom of the global value chain. And that is a structural trap. So we're not going to have a just transition or achieve the SDGs or deliver any of the important goals that we're trying to achieve under a system that's still structurally imposing this particular economic role. And that's a colonial role. And we have to, I don't think we have to convince anybody that colonial structures were not designed for justice or development or democracy or any of the good things. So why do we expect the same economic structures to produce a just transition or development or SDGs? They can't by design. So that's why we always talk about you can't really decarbonize a system unless it's also structurally decolonized. And when it comes to the specific structural traps that we have in Tunisia and Africa and the rest of the global south, high external debt is usually the symptom that everybody observes. But the sources of external debt are three major categories, and this reflects also Tunisia's economy, as you will see in a minute. Energy deficits, food deficits, and manufacturing value-added deficits. And no country can function without food, without energy. This is the foundation. And if you're hoping to have prosperity, you have to have industry. And we have deficiencies in the key areas. I'll give you an example. The energy sector in Africa. We're talking about the old energy system, the fossil fuel system. Our largest oil exporters, Nigeria, Angola, are energy deficient. They export crude oil, they import gasoline and kerosene and petrochemicals, and are energy poor and are set up typically in a debt trap. The continent as a whole, our food imports is 85% of our food is imported. In Tunisia, of course, you know the huge food imports for the grains, the core food items. And then the manufacturing base that we are allowed to have in the global south with trade agreements and partnerships is the kind where you have to import the machines, you have to import the fuel to power the factories, you have to import the intermediate components to be assembled with low-cost labor, and we even import the packaging. So you end up with a manufacturing sector that produces low value-added content for exports, and what we import is high value-added content. So we can double, triple, quadruple our exports. You're always locked at the bottom of the hierarchy. You can't escape that trap. So the strategic transformation that we need in Tunisia and the African continent in general is based on the structural problems. So strategic investments in food sovereignty and agroecology, strategic investments in renewable energy, which is our biggest potential. There's becoming very obvious that there is no other alternative than renewables, especially in Tunisia, and real industrial policies to escape the bottom of the value chain. So high value-added manufacturing, starting with manufacturing the building blocks of development and prosperity, which is renewable energy infrastructure, clean transportation infrastructure, high-tech equipment, so that we're not locked in the same structural trap. But the problem with these trade deficits, and you'll recognize Tunisia's current economic crisis in this, is that when you have structural trade deficits year after year, the value of our currency becomes weaker relative to the dollar and relative to the euro. And with the weaker currency, anything we need to import the next morning, food, fuel, medicine, we import it at a higher price. So we literally import inflation in the most sensitive areas, food, fuel, and medical equipment. And that means you have the potential for social instability and economic instability. So our government immediately rearranges its priorities to protect the most vulnerable people. So we subsidize food, we subsidize fuel, we try our best to subsidize health services, but that's unsustainable to do this for 50, 60, 70 years because we're not solving the problem, we're just using band-aid solutions. And we also ask our central bank to defend the exchange rate, to strengthen the exchange rate. And the central bank will do it by borrowing more dollars. and therefore feeding into the debt cycle. And when you get unsustainable debt, external debt in dollars and euros, eventually you have to completely rearrange your economic priorities to prioritize extractive economic activity so that you earn dollars as quickly as possible. And you neglect the strategic investments that will actually get you out of this trap. And you'll see this on a global scale. If you divide the world in global north and global south, and net out all global financial transactions, we get that green line, which the last data point is showing that the global north is extracting $2 trillion from the global south in net transactions. This includes foreign direct investment, trade, remittances from workers, even illicit financial flows. The net amount is purely extractive. And notice the green line is accelerating. It's not new, it's structural. So that's the global economic architecture that needs to be transformed, not reformed. When we say global economic architecture, it's a trade architecture, investment architecture, that's the WTO, financial architecture, that's the World Bank and IMF, and taxation architecture, which for a long time was in the hands of the OECD. Now we're moving the taxation, international taxation, into the UN system. It's being negotiated as we speak. This is a colonial economic architecture. So we shouldn't be surprised to see that it's actually extractive and that it continues to be extractive from the global south. And to summarize, since this is Climate Finance Day, to summarize where we are in climate finance, you have $2 trillion moving in the wrong direction from the global south to the global north. You have $100 billion promised from 15 years ago. Most of what was delivered was loans, not grants. You have the Green Climate Fund, last time I checked, had $12 billion for the entire global south. It's very difficult actually to get funding from it. That's one of the reasons Tunisia is, I was talking to the Uganda delegation. They worked for 3 years just to qualify for applying for Green Climate Fund. 3 years of doing papers. And then you have that tiny little dot there, if you can see it, that's the Loss and Damage Fund. That's 700, and they added $19 million yesterday. So now it's $719 million. And of course, the big extractive industries, the fossil fuel industry that is, you can't find a Green Climate Fund that can match the annual profits of these oil and gas companies in Africa. So that's the problem. This is the summary of climate. That's why we're not making any progress. Because if you're taking $2 trillion from me every year, and you give me $719 million in loss and damage fund, it doesn't really make any impact. And you promise $100 billion, and all of it is loans to get you in a debt trap. You're not going to make any progress on this. So this is the picture for the African continent as a whole. You can see Africa's exports, raw materials mostly, right, and cash crops. So coffee, tea, tobacco, cocoa. And notice the volume of Africa's exports in billions of dollars. Now notice the volume of our imports. So we have a structural trade deficit on a continental scale. And notice our imports is high value added products, pharmaceutical products, core crops, rice, wheat, corn, and refined petrochemicals. We export the crude, we re-import the more expensive version of it. This is the data for Tunisia. I can show you country after country after country, very similar picture. Notice the volume of Tunisia's exports, and now notice the volume of Tunisia's imports. So we have a structural trade deficit year after year after year, which is the reason why the dinar is getting weaker and weaker relative to the dollar. I'll go back again to Tunisia's exports. You notice you can eyeball the composition of what we export, and you can eyeball the composition of what we import. Wheat, cars, pharmaceutical products, refined petrochemicals, and so on. So this produces this constant pressure on the exchange rate. So when the line is going up, that's the dinar getting weaker relative to the dollar. That's the dollar becoming more expensive. Notice it's not because of a particular moment or particular crisis. It's not just because of COVID. It's not just because of the revolution. It's not just because of any particular president or prime minister. It's a structural issue. Of course, international crises and governments matter, policy choices, but this is this is structural. And the result of it is this external debt that is increasing exponentially, debt in dollars and euros and so on. So the structural solutions, as I indicated earlier, and I emphasize that the structural solutions cannot be Tunisia-based. They have to be at least regional economic cooperation, if not Pan-African, for a very simple reason, which is the third category, high value-added manufacturing. No industrialization can happen on a small scale. You need economies of scale. And we are an economy of 11 million consumers. So we can't industrialize because we don't have an internal market. We have a global market, but good luck competing today with made in Germany, made in Japan, made in China. But if you look towards the African continent, here's what we have for regional or Pan-African cooperation. You have the complementarity of resources and capabilities. You have the economies of scale. We're the size of China. And you have all the critical raw materials that we need on the continent, not in Tunisia, but on the African continent, to manufacture and deploy renewable energy infrastructure, clean cooking infrastructure, which is a huge market for the African continent. 950 million people don't have any access to clean cooking infrastructure. That's an industrialization opportunity. It's not a high-tech equipment that we're talking about. And then clean transportation infrastructure, not to manufacture batteries for European and American EVs, but to manufacture solar panels. We don't have electricity. Why are we producing batteries for other people? So it's about the industrial priorities also. And of course, food sovereignty and renewable energy sovereignty, as I'll show you later. And of course, we have to continue fighting for transforming the global economic architecture. So doing the first part in and of itself is not sufficient. We still have to fight to undo the economic architecture that I described earlier. So in terms of the climate debt concept, some countries have clearly exceeded their carbon budget. That's the global north. Our countries, Tunisia included, we didn't exceed our carbon budget. So from a scientific perspective, the countries that exceeded their carbon budget, they owe a climate debt. And the concept of debt is very simple. In economics, in law, and finance, if I owe you $100, I have to pay you $100. We can negotiate the payment plan, but it has to be a payment without you taking anything from me. But unfortunately today, this is not how climate finance works. So the global north has essentially appropriated the atmospheric commons, and it has a climate debt, and there's estimates about the amount of climate debt that we're talking about. This study by Fanning and Hickel estimates that it's 193 trillion to be paid between now and 2050. And I'll show you some of the data. So the countries in the green area that didn't exceed their budget. Notice that China and India are still there. Technically speaking, China and India are today huge emitters, but in terms of cumulative emissions, they were developing countries, they were poor countries for a long time. They didn't industrialize until recently. And most of their industrialization today is to produce stuff to be consumed in the US and Europe. So notice the rest of the global south is in the green area. So it's very simple methodology here. And this is the summary of the climate reparations or climate debt framework. Even if you exclude China and India from this, let's say they're not getting any climate reparation, the rest of the global south is still owed trillions of dollars, not billions, not millions. So this should be the foundation for the negotiations that are happening today. But of course, the global north doesn't want to talk about reparations or even grants or public funding for climate adaptation. They want us in the global south to de-risk investments for private companies from the global north to come extract and greenwash their economic activity, and they call that climate finance. And that's very, very problematic. And you've probably seen this campaign and with a lot of civil society groups here asking for, based on that study, it means $5 trillion per year at least. And it has to be in the form of debt cancellation, at least debt cancellation of all debts related to climate-related borrowing, and not restructuring or rescheduling. Grants, not loans, and transfer of technology. This is very important for the economic transformation. Transfer of technology, not all technologies, but technology that what we call life-saving technology, to manufacture and deploy renewables infrastructure, clean cooking infrastructure, and clean transportation infrastructure in order to transform our economies. And this is economic transformation, but all of this is climate adaptation. And this is just to highlight the massive potential that we have on the African continent. According to IRENA, Africa today can produce 1,000 times its anticipated energy needs by 2040. 1,000 times, and become a massive economic and energy powerhouse globally. And this is the distribution of critical minerals. All the critical minerals that we need for real industrial policies are on the African continent. And Tunisia's responsibility in this, or opportunity, is that we do have the research and development capabilities, the manufacturing capabilities. We don't have any of the resources, but that's where complementary comes in. And we're a small economy, but we have huge renewable energy opportunity, not just for us, but for our neighbors on the African continent and our neighbors in Europe. But what is the kind of renewable energy investment that we see in Tunisia? Purely extractive, importing all the infrastructure with loans from European banks to produce solar energy and green hydrogen to be exported to Europe. So it's a greenwash, rinse and repeat of the same extractive colonial approach, when we could be manufacturing the infrastructure, producing it for ourselves, and exporting the surplus. And that requires cooperation. The same problem exists in every single country on the African continent. In fact, the problem is worse in other countries because they have all the resources and they have no capabilities to add value on the manufacture and so on. So this is where cooperation comes in. So to conclude, the time to act is now. We need radical policy action, not incremental solutions. And this is where, going back to what I said in the beginning, these are decisions at the cabinet level. So president and ministers having a structural conversation about the economy, and then recognizing that, okay, now we agree as a country, as a political leadership, that we're going to undertake this work. And now we have to do the diplomatic work to engage with our neighbors across the continent so that they too have similar conversations and start moving towards South-South cooperation of this kind. And when I say Pan-Africanism and South-South cooperation, I'm going to just put the conclusions here. I don't mean it as a nice things we say to each other in these meetings. It's an economic necessity. So Pan-African unity and Pan-African industrial policies is unavoidable if we're going to escape these structural traps. And this transformative vision is really within reach. We have all the political leverage. When we operate as a bloc in COP or any multilateral negotiations, whether it's the Africa Group or the G77 or the V20, these are large blocks of countries. We're the global majority. We're 88% of the global population. So when these blocks have a coherent vision and stand behind it, they're unstoppable. So the geopolitical leverage is also available to us. And that needs to be activated. And it takes leadership, and I'm challenging the Tunisian diplomats to do this work in Tunisia and with the Africa Group and the G77. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Qabour.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, in Africa, which are the countries who are leading according to your vision?
Unfortunately, not yet. I mean, there are countries that are interested, but they're overwhelmed by the amount of work that needs to be done. So what we're interestingly, the Latin American countries are more interested in this because they're politically more ready, I think, to engage at the global South level. So you see some interest there. But on the African continent, you have countries like Uganda, which is chairing the G77 this year, the non-aligned movement. Also, countries like Namibia, the Sahel countries who are, actively trying to decolonize and reduce French influence. Those are the countries that are already interested. They want to move beyond extractivism and dependence on European extractive industries. But a lot of work needs to be done. I mean, you would think that the African Union should be the place where this is happening, but the African Union is mostly funded by the European Union. So lots of external influence in policy choices. And the problem with external debt makes it very difficult for any government to think beyond the next few months. Because Africa this year is paying $163 billion in debt service, in this year alone, in 2024. That's massive. So when you have that kind of debt burden. A country like Kenya, 50% of export revenues is to pay the debt. So what's left in your budget after you prioritize importing fuel, importing food, paying the debt? There's nothing left in your budget. So you can't think about real industrial policies. So your choices are somebody from the global north outsourcing low value added manufacturing and is offering you to set up an industry to create 500 jobs. So you take it. It's better than nothing. And you go deeper into the trap.
Thank you. Any question?
Thank you. I suppose you are following the negotiations about the NCQG.
Yes.
And so far, actually, it's very tough and it's a crisis.
Sure.
Recently, so the US opposed that any funding go to the loss and damage. What do you expect will happen by the end of this COP with this regard? Like for the...
Yeah. I'm not speaking on behalf of any government, but I try to share information with governments. I think a no deal is better than a bad deal in this COP, because there's no time to keep delaying and wait. I mean, you've seen the summary of the climate finance picture. We're not even close. So why do we keep agreeing to things that are pre-cooked by Europe and the US for the COP? Why can't we use our leverage as a bloc and say, look, this is not going to work. So we're not going to make this festival a success for you, for your media, to celebrate another successful COP. 29 COPs, that's 29 failures, right? We're not actually acting. And the countries that have been historically the most responsible for climate change are actually adding more fossil fuel infrastructure. That's the US, Canada, and continue reliance on outsourcing the heavy pollution industries to the global south, India and China and Mexico and other places. So these are delaying tactics. There's no action. And I'm talking about other US administrations, so the next one is going to be worse.
Yeah, thank you so much for this excellent presentation, which is interesting and sad at the same time. I saw in the first slide that you mentioned energy deficiency in Tunisia. It's a pity, actually, with all the solar potential, the wind potential, and even the resources extracted also at the south and even offshore. So based on your experience, what is preventing Tunisia from auto-exploiting these resources, solar, wind, for example?
Yeah.
Can you give us maybe one or two main reasons for that? Is it institutional? Is it absence of public-private partnerships?
Yeah.
As per your experience, thank you.
I think it's, in Tunisia, like many other places that have the same potential, if not more potential, it's a couple of things. One, the debt burden doesn't allow you to think strategically. So you end up cornered in an economic situation where anybody from the outside that says, oh, we're going to come and invest in renewable energy, but it's going to be on terms that are favorable to us, not to you, but we'll give you a little bit of money, we end up accepting it because it's better than nothing, right? The second thing is we tend to think of this potential in the context of producing renewable energy requires importing the infrastructure. We're not thinking in terms of industrialization that allows us both to produce the renewable energy, but also to become a major manufacturer. The third thing is economic diplomacy, where we haven't been successful in negotiating deals that are favorable to us. And I'll give you an example. This is where it's important to play the geopolitics. The major interest in North Africa in general in terms of renewables is from Europe, because it makes sense. They need energy and it's very close. And it's a traditional partner. But the key player in the renewables industry today is China. It's not Europe, right? So China, when I looked up how much we consume in Tunisia, we consume 6 gigawatt. That's very small. China installs 6 gigawatt of solar and wind in 6 weeks. So in 6 weeks, we can have complete energy independence if we wanted. We don't have to negotiate a deal with China for 6 weeks. Let's do it 6 years or 16 years, right? To say we will set up a hub in Tunisia to manufacture solar panels for the entire African continent with Chinese technology and start deploying a certain percentage in Tunisia, a certain percentage in the rest of the African continent, and then bring together 5, 6, 10 other African countries and say, we're going to replicate the entire Chinese manufacturing value chain distributed in our countries. So each country will take, 10, 15 steps of the manufacturing process, and then it's assembled and manufactured at scale, right? And deployed at scale. That's not the kind of thinking we're having. And China will be interested in this. Chinese foreign policy is always very clear. We'll never tell you what to do. We'll never interfere in your internal affairs, but we're ready to partner, share technology, finance, and they have very serious geopolitical interest in becoming more influential in a transformative way on the African continent. But they will not come to us and dictate the transformation. It's our responsibility as Tunisians, as Africans, to work on preparing the strategic plans for real industrial policies with a handful, it doesn't have to be the entire continent, just a handful of African countries, and then going with to China with the bargain for this kind of partnership and transformation. It's possible.
Thank you, Sifadl, for this very insightful presentation. Actually, I have a question regarding so the question is, shall we blame ourselves before blaming the North? It's like we do have our own internal problems, even the limited resources that are offered now, we are not taking profit from them. And we do have a lot of lack of transparency, a lot of heavy administrative procedures. And so shall we blame ourselves before blaming the North? That's my question.
Blame both. Right? We have responsibility for designing strategies that work for us, positioning ourselves geopolitically, strategically in an advantageous way. That's our responsibility. Nobody's going to do this for us. The report that I mentioned was written for African policymakers, and we made it very clear, if we don't have a vision for ourselves, then we'll be part of somebody else's vision, and we allow that to reproduce itself. But there's also a global architecture that's not friendly to our development, was not designed for our development, and that's another reason to cooperate, to fight, to transform the economic architecture. So it works both ways.
Yeah. I think last question. First of all, I want to say thank you for all your explanations, because you summed up a problem that we as Tunisians living in every day, and there is the type of sensibility that we don't have in the youth. I think I'm talking for the youth here. We don't understand how this country was at some point and now is going down and going down hardly in another point. Yeah. I want to thank you for that, because you helped us understand what's happening in a global structure. So now my question is, I always believe by the fact of I want to change step by step. I can't do anything, everything in one night. What's your maybe one, let's say, advice for youth like us? What can we do on the macro level or even on the micro level to help change things from your experience?
Very good. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about long-term strategic transformation, and I always say the long term starts today. The long term started yesterday in small steps. And I give you a concrete example on the issue of food deficits that we have. Every metric ton of wheat we produce in Tunisia, which is not a lot, right? So we can actually invest with very little internal resources to produce one additional 100 metric tons, right, of wheat. That saves us the equivalent of dollars that we have to borrow to import the wheat, and interest we have to pay for the next 10, 15 years. That's one small step. And the nice thing about agriculture is 12 months. So in 12 months, you can get out of a trap. So internally today, we can put together internal resources, not requiring external finance, to carve out more land, more water resources, more seeds, more support for farmers to produce more wheat. And that's one step out of the structural trap, one step out of external debt. And it's a climate adaptation. We're reducing our carbon footprint. Same thing with renewable energy. Every green kilowatt hour we produce in Tunis saves us the equivalent of dollars we have to borrow to import gas, right? And interest we have to pay for 10, 15 years. That's a debt trap. So Very small steps. Every step we move in the right direction gets us out of the trap. And then on the economic diplomacy and industrial policies, moving away from the economic entrapment of industrial policies of outsourcing assembly line manufacturing. One deal with Chinese companies to replicate the value chain can completely transform the Tunisian economy for the next 100 years. One deal, because we have all the renewable energy potential, and gives us more influence on the African continent if we become the leaders of industrial transformation on the continent. And we have this potential. We have the engineering capabilities. We have brilliant people in the diaspora who are ready to come back to real industrial policies. This is all possible. This can happen within the next 5 years if we organize.
Any question from Si Zuhair or Si Lutfi? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hapoub. And you are still here next week, right?
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah, I recommend that you keep in touch with the Tunisian delegation. We have the Minister of Healthcare, who is also the advisor of our president, Mr. Qais Said, who is coming on Monday. And I think it's important that you have the opportunity to exchange with him these important ideas, not only for Tunisia, but also for Africa and for Tunisian diplomacy. So please, if you have the opportunity, same advice for Dr. Nihal Shabrak. I will request from our Tunisian delegation to organize a short meeting for both of you.
Excellent.
Okay?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please exchange the mic with Mr. Mohammed Ali Shambi. Mohammed Ali Shambi is the Chief Operating Officer at Aquadeep, where he leads operations and strategic initiatives to advance sustainable aquaculture solutions. With a focus on innovation and operational excellence, Mohammed Ali is playing a key role in Aquadeep's growth and its impact on the aquaculture industry. Integrating AI in aquaculture for efficient and sustainable operations. Aquadeep is a blue tech and deep tech startup specializing in innovative solutions for the aquaculture industry. By leveraging AI and computer vision, Aquadeep provides cutting-edge counting technology that enables hatcheries and aquaculture operations to accurately count larvae and juvenile fish, something previously unattainable. This breakthrough helps optimize operational processes while fostering a positive impact on marine ecosystems, improving both efficiency and sustainability in aquaculture. So, Mohammed Ali, tell us how you do this.
Perfect. So, first of all, thank you for your time, for your hospitality, and thank you for everyone who helped get this event done. I don't know how I'm going to do after Mr. Fadl because he did an excellent job.
He's not in the fish business, no worries.
No worries, but his presentation was excellent, so I might do my best to get to his level. So first of all, I want to start by saying we are going to talk about a sector that is in niche, extreme niche, because aquaculture is not known for everyone. So first of all, you need to understand that there is two types of fishing. So you have the traditional fishing in our world, in our cultures, and then there is aquacultures and hatcheries. So aquacultures today, they have a lot of processes and a lot of technology that is not optimized, and is not optimizing the life cycle. And this is where Aquadeep steps in. We helped with the life cycle, and we help with the counting of fish and larvae to help them understand the needs afterwards. And afterwards, we'll talk about the climate, the impact on the ocean. So I'll try the first thing I will say is with this quote is that the ocean is the blue heart of the world. We need to know, and maybe you know here, that every second breath we do is thanks to the ocean. So the ocean is connecting us by a way that we might not understand and might not feel every day, but it's extremely important in our everyday cycle, everyday life, through green, through the ocean, and through the sky, and through everything we live in. there is many oceanic channels. I think the COP29 is one of the best places to understand that there is special hubs for water and oceans. We have the problem of resource demand and overfishing. I think you can find it in the Finns fighting for sustainable fishing. There is pollution and habitat degradation. So I think everyone knows about how the big north, or the north I was talking about, Mr. Kapoor, is exploiting and then rejecting in the oceans and getting oceans polluted. So whether the Mediterranean Sea or the other sea, like the Atlantic Sea, other sea that we know. And there is climate change impacts. So like we said, if the ocean is having a problem, everyone is having a problem. Every living creature is having a problem. But for today, we'll focus on one thing, which will be the resource demands on fish. We need to know that on aquaculture, the production was valued at 90 billions in 2014, and now it's going up in 2024 at 224 billions. This is estimations made by the FIO for this year, and it's estimated in 2040 to 360 billions, meaning that the fish will be the first source of protein for human beings in the next 20 years. So by 2050, aquaculture will have a big demand, and it will be a demand that it's not and it can't be like aquaculture today cannot provide for the demand that will be demanded for 20 or 25 years in the future. So what we did at AquaDeep is we found a solution that was primarily, it came from us, from what the biggest aquaculture in Tunisia. So for the story, how AquaDeep is born, is that we worked with R&D in an R&D partner with the Aquaculture Tunisian in Haragla. They had a problem which was counting lava. So on the life cycle, you need to understand that there is a lava, for example. Here you go. I'll just fast forward. So there is only 20% of lava that make it to the next stage. So first of all, you have the egg that is in Tunisia generally imported. It's not made from Tunisia, it's imported from Italy or Greece. Then hatches to a larva, and then the next step will be juvenile fish and adult fish. We will focus on the first step. On that step, we need to understand that the larva is extremely fragile at using, and you cannot use it and change it from place to place. It will have a high mortality rate. So, logically saying, if you kill a lot of larvae, you will not have a lot of juvenile fish. And if you kill a lot of juvenile fish, it means you will not have fish, and you'll have a problem in your business, which means you don't make money. And this business is particular because this system happens only once a year. So if you lose or you have a lot of death rates, it means that the whole production is gone for a year, so you need to wait another year to get more larvae. So it's not known, people don't have sensibility about this, but it's quite interpelling how fragile these creatures are. The problem that is facing maybe all hatcheries in the world, maybe 90%, is this problem. So it started from inaccurate counting. I don't know how much or how many larvae I have in my tank, so I don't know how much food I'm going to put, when I'm going to clean it, because you know that fish doesn't have toilets like human beings, do everything in the tank. How am I going to clean that? When should I clean that? We don't need to talk too about the sun. So fish need sun to live. So when should I put the sun? Is it too much? Is it too low? And when what about the turbidity of the water? So this is all factors that need to come in for the hatcheries. Let's imagine, for example, I'm a hatchery. I have a 5,000 liter tank, and I have 3 million larvae. This is a study case we just talked about with an Icelandic hatchery last week. They said that we overestimate. So I'm going to put an oxygen surplus, and I'm going to put a food surplus, which automatically leads to respiratory diseases and a high mortality rate and a low quality product. That applies for a lot of hatcheries in the world. They just work manually. It's a total blackout on data, and they don't understand how to move forward and to get an accuracy level that is high. We need to understand too on the aquaculture side, there is 75% of the water that comes in and the chemicals, they are sent back in the sea. There's not only chemicals, there there's always more antibiotics to clean the tanks. There's other products and chemicals that helps clean, but as we don't know how much we should put and how much we should insert, we don't know how much is going back there. And when it's going back there, you need to understand that it's polluting the nearby ocean. So I think there you go, perfect. So this is where we steps in as Aquadeep. We developed a counting solution that has not been developed anywhere in the world. There's only one startup that did it in Canada, which is called Expert-C, and they did it on one particular species, which is shrimps. We worked on the Mediterranean Sea, which is sea bass and sea bream. This is what you find most on the Mediterranean Sea, which is in Greece or in Turkey or in Tunisia, for example. And we developed this counter system with 3 layers: a computer vision layer. Oh, sorry. Here we go. A computer vision layer, a machine learning layer, and an AI intelligence layer. So these layers, there is the first computer vision layer that helps identify and count the fish that comes in. There should be a video, but there's no video. But it's all right. Here you go. I think. Anyway, you can see the counter. You can see the counter on the background. But the thing is, there's the first layer, the computer vision, that identify the fish and give you a little idea of, okay, there's a mass and there's a living creature coming in. The second layer is the AI and the AI layer that will take the data from the client and our data to analyze it and give us an accuracy level. And there's the third layer, which is the machine learning, that will help and correct the percentage of false information by the client, so the inaccuracy level. And by doing this, we are now, from facts and from R&D, for about 3 years we've done it, and with clients, we can reach to a level of 95% of accuracy, which can help the client get up to 25 or 27% more productivity on his tanks, and it gives you more insights on your data, and it comes back again to what we said: how should I manage my tanks? So this technology has been patented. We have a national patent, have an international patent. We've been awarded by the FAO, GFCM, and we just last month we won the Francotech on the most sustainable technology. All of this to say, aquaculture is a field where technology is lacking. There's not too much technology going on. That's why it's a niche. We want to add our value in helping aquacultures and hatcheries to understand that there is a sustainable problematic, and to help them make sustainable farming come to life. Because if you ask around, aquaculture doesn't have a good reputation about farming in let's say as a mass. The impact on the ocean is quite presentable. We can have values of, okay, aquaculture is polluting the ocean, and this is where Aquadeep is present here and wants to make and sensibilize people and people from aquaculture that we can mass fish and get sustainable results from that. As Aquadeep, we go under the SDG 14, life underwater. We go into the SDG 6 and 12 too. But I wanted to focus on this one because if we can find a solution with a Tunisian-made solution, that is getting more attraction by hatcheries and aquacultures from outside Tunisia, why not do this in Tunisia, like Mr. Kaboub said, and help and make this aquaculture understand the problematic they're facing. We can also add, before the thank you, we can also add something else, is that hatcheries and aquaculture work close by. A hatchery will sell their larvae to the aquaculture and vice versa. So this solution can be either a sustainable way of getting and counting accurately, or even business-wise, I can understand how much larvae I have or how much fish I'm selling, and it will be a win-win for everyone. So once again, thank you for your attention. I was Mohammed Ali, and hope it was quite interesting.
Thank you, Mohammed Ali. Actually, the good news is that for those who love fish, we will have more to eat in the coming century.
Thank you very much, Mohammed Ali. It's very interesting. Just technical question. If I well understood, the main problem was about the estimation of the larva number.
Exactly.
And you made the assumption that it's maybe 20%, let's say, of success rate.
Yeah.
What makes you think that it is only from the larva, not from the egg? And what is the success rate from the egg to the larva? Last question. Why do we import it from Italy and from Greece? Why don't we have?
Yes. So I'll answer the second question, because I'm not the technical guy, but I'll answer anyway. For the first question is that we have 3 aquacultures in Tunisia. We have 3 aquacultures, and I think we don't have a lot of hatcheries, but we suffer from a problem of financial problem. It's always the same thing. So some hatcheries do not work, let's say, every year. So some are shut down, and it might be even cheaper to get them from Turkey or Italy for this type of larva, for sea bass and sea bream. I think that's for the second question. For the first question, there is, let's say that from the egg to the larva, there is basically no, a total blackout of information, of data. People just don't know how to count. The last meeting I had with the hatchery from Iceland, they still count manually. So the real problem is not how can I do it, but how can I understand how much I have in my tank? And this is where we come in with the technicality. The egg is extremely fragile, and let's say, for example, we take an example. I have my eggs. I will first of all, what they do is they put it in a tank, and they will there is a natural selection happening. So the eggs that stays down, that's the eggs that are dead. So there are no interest in taking them in, and the eggs that are still up, that's the ones they're gonna take. So from that, they don't know, when they transfer it to another tank, they don't know how much they have. And that's the point we try to focus on with AquaDeep. I think you had another part of the question, but it's understandable. Okay, perfect.
The cost aspect, we don't have economy of scale.
Yes, exactly. That's the problem. And there is another side of the aquaculture that people don't know, but it's extremely fragile, even for the fish, but even for people working there. It's security. There's a lot of security on the environment, so not anyone can come in, because if you bring a disease with you in the tanks, it can kill all the. That happened, I think, 2 years ago in Tunisia, if I'm not wrong, with the aquaculture, and it was a huge problem. And to find the problem is quite. Again, it's financials. We need money to find the problem, which we don't have the luxury to have today.
Any other question?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I want to know, this acknowledgement have a cost.
Yes.
So how you can put this cost in the price of fish in the end of circuit?
Okay.
And which part? How many?
Okay. So what we sell to the client is the counting solution. So we do not have like a part of the fish at the end. What we do, for example, let's say you are my client. I will come to you and say, okay, you have maybe 10 tanks of fish. I will give you my access to my platform. So it's a platform. What they do is they take a sample of the fish, of the larva, for example, of the fish. They take a picture with the phone, and with the phone, they will send it to our platform that we count it. We do this, we set the pricing for every tank. So you have a price for every 3 tanks. And the client will pay for the counting solution and other solutions, like, for example, biomass, or they have an MES, which is MES, and manufacturing executional system that will give them information in time T, like on live. So they don't have to go, for example, I have a problem of temperature in tank number 24. I need to talk to this guy to go to there. He has everything in his hands. So AquaDeep is getting to the solutions. We are paid on the counting solution and to help them on the life cycle and advising them on how can you manage your fish. And then the fish will come, I think, at a better rate and at a better state of health. Thank you very much.
Are there any, let's say, success fees for AquaDeep? How do they measure performance of AquaDeep solutions?
So one of the things that this technology is helping us with is that, let's say, for example, you have my client, and this client, before he starts counting, he will have parameters to indicate beforehand. We, by counting, as we have access to his counting, we understand how much he is having of problems. And for example, from day 1 to day 2 to day 3, we understand his how do you call that? His track, yeah. So the track of the living creature. By all the clients ask questions, several questions before to the client: how many mortality rates you had, how many, for example, how many liters of tanks you have, how many species you are getting into. That will help us define, first of all, the problem he's facing. And in 2 weeks' time, for example, we will have a clear idea of what the problem is and how can we fix it. And the client, I think himself, will say to us like, okay, so this is, I have more survival rate. It's better than before, and I think we already have once or twice this result.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question, actually, maybe it's related to the other question. So actually, what's the cost benefit for, like, I mean, yeah. So actually, as a client, as your client, so I'm paying for a service, okay? And of course, actually, it will come somehow in the cost of the fish at the end, okay? But what's my benefit, okay? And how is this maybe affecting the final price of the fish after like making this assessment of the cost benefit?
Okay.
I think that was your.
Yes.
Because now, the fish is maybe house 25 dinars, for example, and with this technology, it will be more or less than 25.
Okay, understand. So, about the price, I think about the price, the end price, it will depend on the client. Yeah, so no, for the client, I think it depends on the economy of scale in general. But for us, I'm just going to go back to your question. As a counting solution in general, what will affect the client is that he will pay less for the technology first, because the technology today on the market, we have 2 big names, which is Febre and Baku, that will sell counters that still use infrared technologies for 65,000 euros. So this is the first price that will go down, because we give him a SaaS solution, and we will get less money on that. And second of all, about the price, is that when you know how much you have in your tank and how much fish you are raising, for example, 1 million, 2 million karous, for example, you'll save on your food supplies, on your chemical supplies, and you'll save on your time and manual tests. That's one thing. Second thing, it will give more like a healthier fish. And at the end product, I'm not an expert, I'm not going to say things I don't know, but I think it will depend on how much he imports. Maybe why not gives his own larva and raise it, and maybe get cheaper fish. But as the demand is growing up, I hope it gets with less prices. But like I said, it's not. Yeah.
So what you are saying, like, I mean, on the value chain.
Yeah.
So actually, all the food like you are giving to your fish, I mean, you have a big saving and you have better product.
Yes.
Exactly.
And probably more volumes, because there is less death.
Yeah, of course. And so actually, I think in terms of, for example, if you want actually to put your startup, like, I mean, to have a better exposure, it's really like, how are you going to contribute to, the food security thing, and to the wellness.
Yeah.
Okay, because there is a healthy component. Okay, cost saving. So actually, it's
yes.
And if you are able, like, to measure this, at a big scale, then actually we see it, and
yes. It will definitely come with the clients coming in. I think it will be our primary objective from maybe 6 months, 1 year time. I think we'll have definitely a big roadmap of how much we are impacting the clients and the partners we have. So that's a great idea, and thank you for your suggestion.
Actually, are you following the profitability of your customers?
Yeah, but I don't have it right now. But
Yeah.
No, we have it.
Because the
We have
real
KPIs
question
of,
is that your solution is reducing the cost and improving the productivity. So of course it should have a direct impact, but the price on the market is depending also on the demand.
yes.
If there is a lot of demand, they may be making much more margin, which is good for you to know.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Oh, still a question from Celine.
It will be more technical regarding the IP, the intellectual property. So do you have any, are you protecting your IP, and what
Yes,
makes
so-
you different from the competitor?
Yes, it's already protected, and that's what helped us. I think 3 years ago, we patented it nationally, and we had the opportunity and the chance to do it on the international level too. So I think on a program that we had only 3 startups in Tunisia did it. So we were one of them, and we are building on that to get the client pipeline more and more efficient, and maybe get some more good information, like I said.
Thank you very much, Muhammad Ali.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Best wishes of success.
Thank you.
And thank you all for contributing to this first session of our side event. Thank you.
قادمة.